Hi, everybody. I hope you guys are doing good today. Today is Monday. It's October 22nd. Hopefully, you had a great weekend and your week is off to a good start. I'm doing okay. My eye's coming along. It's clearing up. It's still not 100% clear yet, but it's getting there. Um, one thing I wanted to start off by mentioning, was in Australia today, the Australian government issued a public apology to the survivors of institutionalized child sexual abuse. Um, Watchtower was invited to participate in that event, as was all of the other institutions, and Watchtower refused. Uh, the the Australian government is also uh, instituting a redress, meaning they basically try to. So the Australian government is also doing what's called a redress, and that's basically they are or they are planning. I hate this word compensation because there's no such word as compensation in when you're talking about child sex abuse, but they want to award the survivors of child sex abuse. They want to award the survivors of child sex abuse. I believe it's like $150,000 each, or something like that. And again, Watchtower is also refusing to cooperate with that. Um, so, uh, and I'm not surprised, but I really, I'm not surprised, but I really wish that Watchtower wouldn't do this. It just makes them look even worse than they already do, right? So, one of the things that I want to encourage all viewers to think about is using social media to expose Watchtower. And their stand with the Australian Royal Commission is an excellent opportunity to do that. The upcoming Leah Remini, The Aftermath show, Scientology and the Aftermath, they're doing an episode on Jehovah's Witnesses on November 13th. And again, that's another opportunity to use social media to broadcast that and announce to everyone that that show is going to be on. So basically, that's what I'm asking you to do. If you have a Facebook or Twitter or Instagram account, to please use it, right, to bring exposure, negative press to Watchtower, and expose to the world what they're doing, because this makes absolutely no sense. Um, they knew about all of those cases, so it does make them liable, and there's no reason for them not to participate in this redress. So that's I wanted to start off this video with that announcement, and again asking everyone to use Twitter and Instagram to really broadcast to bring attention to what Watchtower is doing, as well as the Leah Remini program that's going to be on the A&E network. It's going to be on November 13th. It will be an episode featuring the cult Jehovah's Witnesses. Okay, so that's the first thing I wanted to mention. This video today is going to be about your privacy. Okay, being make it's going to be about privacy, especially while you're making your exit strategy. Okay, so one thing I want to make clear to you is that cults do not respect privacy, anyone's privacy. They they encourage snitching. They encourage the members snitching on one another. Um, invading others' privacy is not considered bad in a cult. They welcome the telling of information learned, no matter how it's learned, whether you eavesdropped or whether you snooped in someone's diary or whatever you did. It doesn't matter how you learned the information. They just want the information. And so when you're planning an exit strategy, you have to be extremely careful. And so that's what I wanted to talk to you about today. In two separate instances, one was on Facebook, the other one was in the XJ Reddit group. Uh, the there in two separate instances, there was the case of people's information was shared and accessed without their knowledge or consent, and it caused problems. So I wanted to talk to you a little bit about that today and try to make sure that that doesn't happen to you while you're planning an exit strategy. So the first thing I want to talk about is a cell phone. If you have a cell phone, one of the best things you can do with it is put a security feature on it where there's a code you have to put in or whatever, but try to get some kind of security thing on there. Um, One thing I want to recommend is also when you text message people, some those text messages stay in queue unless you delete specific messages. So what I recommend is if you're planning an exit strategy, there are certain things that you should not leave uh, on the regular texting app that's on your phone. Okay, so there's some certain subjects that should just not go on that regular app. And that includes anything that has to do with your exit strategy. If you're dating a worldly person, whether, whoever it is, same sex, opposite sex, does not matter. If you're dating someone, it should not be in there. If you're dating someone that you know is going to be a problem for your JW parents, do not talk about it there in the text app that you use. The other thing is if you are engaging in any kind of non-approved JW behavior, right? Some of it, I don't have to explain it. Sometimes, there are people, there are those of us who JWs and they lead a double life and they're, doing things they know that they're not supposed to do, including drinking, smoking, sex, blah, blah, blah. And so, of course, if you're engaging in any activities that you know you have no business engaging in as a current JW, please do not put any of that behavior in the in any kind of text message. Whatever text messaging app that you're using, please do not include any descriptions of that behavior, whatever, in those text messages. Okay, if and some of us are prone to use curse words, including myself, please do not use any text. When you're texting back and forth, do not use any language, any foul language or whatever. Some of us already know the truth about the truth. We've read that book, Crisis of Conscience by Ray France, and we've dug into all of these different cover-ups of Watchtower, so we know the truth about the truth. Again, do not include anything about that in any text messaging, that you're with your friends or, with a non-believing family member, whoever you're talking to, texting to. Do not include any of that information in a regular text. So basically, your text messaging, so the regular text messaging app that you're using on your phone, you want to use that strictly for above board, communications. Okay, nothing that would get you in any trouble if an elder would read it. All right, so that's the first thing. The regular app that you use for text messaging should everything that you text and that using that app should be above board. That means your mom could read it and it won't be a problem. The elders could read it, it won't be a problem. That's what you want to use that app for. Okay, so that's the first thing. The next thing is when you're talking with people, especially people who are still JWs or who grew up as a Jehovah's Witness. You want to be very selective with what you tell them. And again, the call it it really encourages snitching on people. So you really don't have true friends when you're dealing with other JWs. You have people who would potentially snitch on you. In the XJW edit group today, someone mentioned that they told a disfellowshipped person some private things about the truth that they learned, right? And then of course this person goes back and snitches on the elders, and this whoever that person was, they already disfellowshipped, so there really was no added bonus to do it, but they just did it on their own. So it just goes to show you that cults encourage snitching, and that even when a person is disfellowshipped from the cult, that habit is still so ingrained in them that they'll do it. So you have to be very selective with what you tell people. I hate to say it this way, but you really should not trust anyone who is currently a JW or who has just left the JW cult. If they whether they were disfellowshipped or disassociated, if they just left, you still shouldn't trust them. All right. The reason why is because the wiring of the cult, the way that person's brain is wired, they're still connected to the cult. And until that programming is until they're deprogrammed and they're not connected to the cult and wired to do whatever the cult tells them to do, until they lose that piece of their personalities, until they lose that piece of their personalities, you should not entrust them with any confidential information. All right. So who should you talk to? You should talk to the ex-JW community. You should talk to non-JW adults who you know will respect your privacy. So if you have a non-believing relative, a grandparent, perhaps, or an aunt or an uncle, that's a good place to start. If you have teachers, guidance counselors, that's another good place to go to. If you have a neighbor that you can trust, that's another good place to go to. But you need to first sit down and talk with them and explain to them that what you two discuss needs to stay between you two. All right, it's important. All right, and so the next thing is your social media. You need to be very, very careful with what you post on social media. Right? I always recommend that if you're a Jehovah's Witness, that you have two social media accounts. One is the one that the JWs are, familiar with, and they know that that's your account. But then you should create a second one. You should block every single JW that you know. You should use a fake name, and with that one, you should post whatever you want. But again, do not allow any JWs to follow you, and do not friend any of any JWs that you know. You should be blocking all of them. Okay, and that's again, you should be using a fake name. So it's very important that you do have social media. You know what I mean? The XJW community is on social media. You should be able to connect with us, but you want to do it in a safe manner. Okay. So that was one of the things I wanted to make sure that you're doing, and most of you are. You're using social media. We want you to be safe. We don't want you to have your exit plan, you know, ex- exposed basically before you're ready to. All right. So um, the next thing I wanted to talk to is regarding your exit planning. So if you're working on an exit strategy to leave the cult, you want to be very careful with number one, with whom you discuss it, and also how you discuss it. So that means, remember saying with your regular text app, you don't want to use that one at all whenever you're discussing or whenever you're talking about exiting the cult. All right. So what are some good um, messaging apps that you can use? All right. The first one I have, Snapchat. Another one, Telegram, Bleep, Wicker, WICKR. The next one is Confide, and the next one, Cover Me, and the last one is Speak On, right? And so some of these, they don't allow the recipient to snap a screenshot of the text message that you sent, which is very good. Some of them have a self-destruct time. Others are, they're all encrypted, so that makes, for safety. But again, these are all good text apps to use because your privacy is guarded. So basically, your parents can't go through your cell phone and find these kind of text messages. All right. So another thing that you want to be careful is when you're talking to any family members and friends that are Jehovah's Witnesses or recently were Jehovah's Witnesses, you want to be extremely careful with what you say because you don't want to risk them going back to the elders and snitching on you. Right. So you want to be extremely careful with what you say and whatever you tell them. Um, I really strongly don't. I don't recommend that you share with anyone your plans to leave unless that person is leaving with you. So if you, for example, if you're dating, let's suppose you're dating someone. Let's suppose it was me myself. I'm 15 years old. I'm dating this guy, and we're both miserable as Jehovah's Witnesses. So we sit down and say, we talk this thing out, and we say, okay, when we turn 18, we're going to leave, and we start working on it together. So that's the kind of situation I'm talking about. But again, you have to be very careful because you're entrusting this person with a huge secret. So now suppose I break up with this guy 6 months from now, he goes back to my parents and tells them, hey, guess what? Pat and I have been dating all this time and we were talking about leaving, and the next thing you know, he's ratted me out. So that's what I mean. You have to be extremely careful and selective with whom you share this data with. Um, I would only share that data with any person that you want to count on for help. So using that same example, if if this is a person I'm dating and he and I are planning to leave the cult together, then obviously I trust him. And you should, those apps that I mentioned before, the security apps, those are the ones you should be using to text back and forth about exiting the cult, right? Some of you have older siblings and you're counting on moving in with them or so when you turn 18. Again, you should be connecting with that sibling and using those text apps to figure out a plan how you're going to, when you turn 18 or whatever, that you're going to be moving in with this person or whatever. Um, and I recommend that if for quite a few of us, I thought it was just me, but it's quite a few of us. We left the cult and we had to go find our relatives. I had to go find my grandmother. I had to go find cousins that I hadn't talked to or seen in years. So one thing I recommend is if you're planning to leave, part of your exit planning should include getting in touch with relatives that you may have lost contact with. So, and you want to get that before you exit the cult. You want to reestablish contact with them while you're still in the cult. And remember, building that social circle, you want to keep doing that. You want to keep building on it. You don't want to, wait till you leave the cult and then start trying to make friends. The reason why that's important is because when you leave the cult, you're going to be an emotional basket case. You're going to be upset, crying sometimes. You're going to be angry. Some days you're going to be feeling thrilled that you left the cult. So it's going to be an emotional roller coaster. So if you have friends and support from family members, from non-JW family members, that helps. So the thing you don't want to do is leave the cult and you don't have a support system there in place that knows your circumstances and can provide support. You don't want to just leave the cult and find yourself cut off from everybody and you have to start from zero. All right. Um, Another thing that I wanted to mention, we talked about with the cell phones. Try to get a password or whatever on your cell phone to protect your privacy. The last thing what you don't want is for your parents or whatever to go through your phone and figure out what you're planning to do and show it to the elders, and the next thing you know, you're disfellowshipped. You want to make it so that you're exiting the cult on your terms when you're ready, and so you don't want to, like I said, you don't want because of your parent disrespecting your privacy. Now the elders already know what you're planning, blah blah blah. So again, try to get a security code or whatever on your phone to protect your privacy. Of course, same thing with your email accounts and everything. You want to make sure that there's a password on there that isn't easy to figure out or whatever. You want to make sure it's pretty difficult for anyone to figure out, and you want to protect your privacy while online. All right. And the same thing, if you're texting back and forth with people who are helping you plan your exit from the call, of course, those security snap app, I mean, those security texting apps that I mentioned earlier, those are the apps that you want to use. And you want to make sure that they're using them as well, right? So you want to make sure that they're not just calling you up or sending you regular text on that subject. You want to make sure that they use the proper app so that your privacy is ensured. You have to be very careful. I hate that this sounds all cloak and dagger, but that's exactly what leaving a cult entails. It entails that you plan it out and you execute it as if you're planning a bank robbery or something. It really is. It's a lot of planning, and I get that. But again, when you leave, you want to leave on your terms. You want to leave when you're ready. Another thing that I wanted to mention briefly is that if you're still home, and you're still planning out your exit from the call, you want to look at any deficits that you have. And so the deficit could include anything. So it might be, okay, I need to earn a little bit more cash. So I might have to pick up another job or something, or figure out another way of making more money. So that might be a deficit. And another deficit may be, well, I have like two good friends that I can count on for support, but I really should get a third or fourth one, a fifth one, sixth one. I should expand my circle a little bit further out. That's a deficit, right? So in other words, you want to keep identifying anything that could be a problem, anything that could create a hardship for you, and you want to address it while you're still in the cult. Right. Another piece of advice I have for you: if you are considering going to college or trade school, no matter what it is your career choice is, you want to research it thoroughly. So one of the best ways to research your career choice is to go to any to any search engine to I'm sorry, for any career search engine like Career Builder, Monster.com, Glassdoor, ZipRecruiter. You want to go to any kind of job recruiting website, and Indeed.com is another one. And basically, you want to type in the title of the job you're looking for, and then when those jobs come up, you want to review them. You want to see what the salaries are on those jobs and what the educational requirements are for those jobs. Sometimes jobs. Sometimes those jobs will require a bachelor's degree or whatever. You want to check all of that. Um, the reason I bring that up is because if you're underqualified, you gotta keep in mind there are a lot of people that have bachelor's degrees, and they're going for the same jobs as you are. So you want to make sure that you are able to compete in the job market. If you're planning to go into anything that has to do with IT or computers or networking or whatever, anything that has to do with computers or information technology, be prepared to face the competition. Okay, it's a very competitive job market. You need to do the research and find out what are your options. The other thing is, in your immediate vicinity, there may not be a huge job selection, but then if you go a little bit further out, there may be more jobs available. You want to check the city, county, state. You want to see if there's any jobs listed in their uh, human resources department that you may qualify for. So what I'm saying is that part of picking a career is that you need to prepare. You need to know what you're getting yourself into, and the way to go about doing that is act like you are searching for a job right now in that career. So let's pretend me. Let's pretend using myself. Okay, I've decided I want to be a doctor. Okay, just like that. Boom, I want to be a doctor. So the first thing I have to do is research what is it going to take so that I can become a doctor. What do I need to do? I need to go to college. How many years? What classes do I? You need to plan the whole thing out. Okay, so you have to plan the entire thing out. And again, if I say, okay, I'm going to become a doctor, I go to school for 2 years and say, okay, I'm ready. That's not going to work. It's not going to work. So you really have to thoroughly research it. Research it. Research how much the salaries are, and you also want to change the locations. You may not have a lot of job opportunities if you live in a rural area, so you may not have a lot of opportunities if you live in a rural area, so you may want to look closer to a metropolitan area, to a city location. All right. Another thing that helps in when you're job hunting is employers do not like to see gaps on your resume. So what is a good way to work around that is one of two things. Get any kind of job, whether it doesn't matter if you're working in a Starbucks or FedEx office or whatever, just get any kind of job, and then because they just want to basically see that you're using your time. You're not just right. So they want to see that you're using your time in a responsible manner. That someone can vouch for your work ethics and all of that. So again, two options is try to find any kind of job, like I said, in the Starbucks, FedEx office. That's one option. The other option is to volunteer with an organization. So the other thing you can do is go through your state's public assistance office, and they can also try to help you find employment. So those are my recommendations. So I can't think of anything else that I made a mental list of the stuff I wanted to talk about. I cannot think of anything else, and so that's pretty much it for this time. All right, so I hope this helps you guys. Take care. Have a great week, and I love you guys. Take care. Bye.